does this and this, I put up with all these other filthy habits. And the customers are actually the same. The customer's actually driven by one or two things. A lot of the other stuff just really doesn't matter. So after that, every Friday night I used to go and work in the shops in the customer takeaway area. I wouldn't wear my shirt. I used to go and work behind the counter and serve customers, and it was the worst thing I could have done. I actually sat in the takeaway area and talked to them without my uniform on, so they didn't know that I was actually involved in the company. So I'll say that the single most important thing you can do when going forward in business is consistently listen to customers. And I'll tell you how bad it can be if you don't listen. Probably over 10 years ago now, I was in Las Vegas at a conference, and we used to go every year for the food service conferences and the Pizza Expo. And we'd been out the night before introducing the Americans to Bundaberg rum. So we were a little bit ordinary. So we snuck in the back door, and there's a big room. There was like 1,000 people in the room. And as we were sitting down, the first speaker came on for the day, and he was one of those very outgoing, parochial, loud and in-your-face speakers. And he said, "Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to speak about marketing and advertising." And he said, "I know a lot of you are restaurateurs, you don't really want to talk about advertising and marketing," but he said, "It's the single most important thing that you have to understand." He said, "Advertising and marketing in a lot of cases can't be gauged and monitored, but it's out there." He said, "But let me try and think about something else that you might have as a value in your life that you can't gauge and monitor, but you know it's there." And he said, "Religion." He said, "Religion," and then he sort of stopped and he went, "Oh, that's probably a bit heavy for this crowd." He said, "Here's another one." He said, "Ghosts." He said, "Ghosts and spirits." He said, "It's early in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, has anybody here ever actually had contact with a ghost?" And there's like half a dozen hands go up. You know? I'm in America, why not? And he says, "Anybody here actually spoken to a ghost?" A couple of hands go up. And he said, "Has anybody here actually made love to a ghost?" And the guy sitting beside me, he's been out with me all night the night before, puts his hand up. And he says, "Oh, there's a fellow down there. Get him up here, ladies and gentlemen." Everyone's clapping and cheering, and he comes running up on stage, and he's really excited. I was excited, I gotta tell you. And he says, "Son, tell us what's it like to make love to a ghost." And Mick said, "Oh, shit, mate, I wasn't listening. I'm sorry, I thought you said goat." It's absolutely critical along the way to listen. So we traded our way out of this position with the price wars. We went off to New Zealand, and I got to tell you, it was the most amazing story. It was 1994-95. I went to New Zealand. I had a look at the market. The average pizza being sold over there was $34 each. And every time I spoke to anybody in research, I'd say, "Why don't they eat pizzas here in New Zealand?" And a lot of the answers would be, "They don't like them." And that was a fascinating response, based on the fact that Kiwis and Aussies, as far as what they eat, are very similar. And when I dug in further, I found that the reason they didn't like them was because they were so damned expensive. So we put together a plan, a team of people, and we went to New Zealand, and we had a very simple approach. 5 years to become the largest and most successful pizza company in New Zealand. And over the next 5 years, we went from 0 to 65 million in sales, and we became the largest pizza company in New Zealand. And here was the brilliance of the marketing campaign. I went out and I had a look at what people ate in fast food. And the number one thing that they ate was fish and chips on a Friday night, and they spent $22. And they fed 4 people in the family, mum, dad and 2 kids. So I went to our advertising agency and I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to sell a pizza meal for $22. And they said, "Oh no, but we want to do gig, and we want to have him dressed up wearing all these pink outfits, and he's going to get in people's faces." And I said, "You can do whatever you want, but you've got to tell the people they can have a family meal for $22. And they said, "How long are we going to do that for?" And I said, "For as long as it works." So for the next 5 years, and because we were getting 10% year-on-year growth, we continued to maintain a price position to grow the market. So the average consumers in New Zealand, 1% of the market was eating pizza every week. 5 years later, we had 8% of the entire country eating pizza every week, which was still nowhere near enough. But 8% from 1% was a huge growth factor. And I will say that in most cases, the New Zealand families would spend $22. I was standing behind the counter one night in a place called Invercargill, where a huge Maori gentleman walked in, and I was standing behind the counter, and this is how it went. He walked up to the counter, put his hands on the counter, and he said, "How's it going, bro?" And I went, "Hello." And he said, "They'll have spicy chicken, apricot sauce, 2 super supremes, I'll have chicken breadings, garlic bread, and I'll have ham pineapple, and I'll have 3 Diet Cokes." So he ordered about 6 pizzas and garlic wings and a whole lot. And then his wife walked in and she was twice his size. And he looked at her and he said, "What are you going to have?" It's actually a true story. So the business grew from there, and through the highs and lows. Probably the biggest change from there, I'm only going to go for about another 5 minutes, we'll have a few questions, was that we were a successful retail model that became irrelevant. When I say irrelevant, the chairman of the company said to me, "We sell pizzas, our 2 competitors sell pizzas." He said, "Seriously, how are we going to position ourselves with major differentiation in the next 5 years?" And he made a really good point. He said, "I want you to stand out like a zebra in a pack of horses. I want you to find a long-term, sustainable point of difference." And for the next year and a half, we searched for that point of difference. And it struck me when I was actually standing at the front of a massive lineup of fast food operations in America, when I realised that seeing these drive-thrus going one after the other, that people loved pizza in Australia, but the service was too slow. And there was these huge players called McDonald's and Hungry Jack's and even Red Rooster, and the main reason they were the huge players that held 60% of the market was they had drive-thrus. It was as simple as that. So for the next couple of years we worked on technology, we did everything we could. We introduced 2-minute pizzas into our operations. The 2-minute pizzas were a huge hit. 40% of our business was being bought and sold in 2 minutes when people walked in. And of course we introduced drive-through. The first drive-through that took off was up in Emerald in Western Queensland. It was a little store, it used to do about $15,000 or $18,000 a week. We relocated it 300 metres down the road. We built a drive-through and it went to $26,000, $27,000 a week. We didn't change the product, we didn't change the price. All we did was change the way that people could actually get it. And at the time, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I really wasn't looking through the customer's eyes. And if you have a look at the average family on a Friday night, a lot of the reasons they'll use a drive-through is based on the fact that it's safe. And I went out and had a bit of a look, and I actually looked at my brother because he's a classic. This is what happens in the Australian household on a Friday night. The old man knocks off work about 4 or 5 o'clock. He gets on the booze with his mates. He's running late and he's in the shit. He knows this. His mate drops him off in the ute because he's left his car at work because he can't drive. And what he does is he comes in the back door and he corrals the kids between him and the handbrake. And the first thing he says is, "I'm home and we're going to have pizza. I'm going to do pizza." And the kids are like really happy. But the mother's not happy because it's 7:30. She wants to get these kids fed. He's running late. He stinks of booze. Blah, blah, blah. So the first thing the woman says is, "All right, we'll have pizza," because he's already said, "We'll have pizza, but I'll get it delivered because you can't drive." And then she thinks, "Well, it's going to take me 30, 40 minutes. It's going to take me till 8:30. It's going to be too late. I'll just drive down and pick it up." And then she stops and she has a look at herself. She's got the curlers in her hair. She's got the dressing gown on. Passion pillars on her feet. She's not going anywhere. But all of a sudden she realises, hang on, I can get in the car, I can strap the kids in, I can go through the drive-through and no one will see me. And that's what happens. And I've worked in a drive-through window on a Friday night, and believe me, it's not a pretty sight. So, by moving the company in a direction by saying